Hey everyone, I'm Josh Loftus, and this is the Everyday Monday podcast, the podcast where we talk about everyday people doing everyday things in everyday churches. Whether you're a pastor, a plumber, or that person that likes their steak well done, which is morally wrong, by the way, this podcast is for you. This is where we find value in the trenches of Christian life. Welcome to Everyday Monday. And in the trenches with me today, I have a very special guest. He's the community life pastor at Redeemer Fellowship in St. Charles, Illinois. He's a comic nerd. He's a co-host of the Geekly Planet podcast, and he's a pipe enthusiast. I have Pastor Pat Aldridge with me today. Pat, how are you doing, my friend?
Doing well today, sir. Thank you very much for having me on. It is an honor to be on your show, my friend.
Wow, look at that. Well, I appreciate that. It's great to have you. And before we get going here, Pat, I got a question for you. You've probably been asked this before, but how many pipes does one need to own before they go from enthusiast to just having a problem?
I'll let you know when I get there. Yeah.
There's no line. There's no line.
Oh no, I'm sure there's a line out there somewhere. I'm probably approaching it, but it varies from person to person. Obviously, income is a factor.
Sure.
Sure. Most of my problem at this point is the collector in me, is still, I think, looking for those unique pipes that
Sure.
you really just don't see. So,
Right. Well,
but then I have budgetary constrictions. So I see a lot of pipes that I
right.
want,
And a
but I
wife
can't
is probably
afford.
telling you, like, no, Pat,
No,
no.
you're good.
No,
You're
you're
good. Yeah.
good. You're good.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's like a guy in
She's
their
been saying
knives,
that for
right?
quite a
Like,
while though. So
yeah, well, that's probably fair. Yeah. It's like a guy in their knives. Like, I mean, what's one more knife, right?
right.
Right. I mean, I can always use another knife, right?
I mean, like we say in the Geekly Planet, like I say it all the time, everybody geeks out about something,
That's
okay?
right.
It
Everyone
could be
geeks out.
knives, it could be guns. I know guys who are into like bow and arrow and crossbows,
Yeah.
comics, movies, whatever it is, you're going to geek
Right.
out about it. So you're going to want to
Yep.
explore that to the nth degree. So
That's right. That's right. Everyone has something. That is for sure. Yeah. So, Pat, before we dive into our questions, just give me a short bio of who you are. Married, kids, little known fun fact if you have one, and what you do there at Redeemer.
So, yeah, like you introduced, I'm community life pastor at Redeemer Fellowship. I got married early. We were 21 when we got married. So,
Woo.
yeah. To my wife, Cheryl, we waited about 10 years before we started trying to have kids. Got blessed with twins, one boy, one girl, who
Nice.
are now 14 years old, going on 15 in driver's ed, which just
Oh
is
no.
scary, dude.
Both
Yeah.
at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. Then the next year is going to be interesting.
Stay off the roads in St. Charles.
Or the sidewalks, whatever.
Or the sidewalks.
You just never know what's going to happen. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, um, community life pastor at Redeemer Fellowship. I
Mhm.
oversee basically all of our smaller gatherings, which includes children's ministry, youth ministry, our community groups, our
Mhm.
discipleship groups. Um, yeah, a lot of plates to keep spinning. So
Yeah.
I stay pretty busy.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. So, obviously being a pastor there, comes with its ups and downs, I'm sure, things that you thrive on, things that are hard. So for you as the community life pastor there with the specific responsibilities that you have, what do you find to be on those things for you on both ends of the spectrum, both the hardest parts and then the parts that are just the most rewarding that keep you coming through the door?
Yeah, a lot of the one side is super easy. Like, the things that keep me coming through the door is watching people make spiritual progress. In
Mm,
discipleship, in
right.
spiritual maturity. Everything from making wise decisions to accepting Christ. Like it's all part of that discipleship process. And
Right.
um, yeah, yeah, that gets me up in the morning. The things that are on the other side of the spectrum, the things that are hard, you know, we're dealing with real people with real problems, and
Right.
and sometimes it's hard to help them see the danger that they're in,
Yeah.
and so it's an awesome responsibility. Ministry. Um, we talk about it all the time. It's glorious, but it's hard, and
Right.
so we, those are the types of things that I, um, am constantly working at trying to get better. Like, how can I help this person see the danger they're in? How can I help them see, like, this sin is a really big deal.
Right. 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 And trying to do that right in the middle, not being a sledgehammer, right? But also not just kind of winking at it and saying, "Oh, it's okay," right?
Yeah.
Trying to
Well,
find that balance.
yeah, you're trying to speak the truth in love, and
Right.
the more I do it, the more I come to realize I can either speak the truth or I can speak lovingly. To do
Yeah.
both at the same time is a delicate balance,
Really hard. Yeah. Yeah.
because, like, speaking the truth, I can drop the hammer on somebody,
Oh, yeah,
you
sure. That's
know,
not hard, right?
and to speak lovingly, like, that's the okay, it's not as bad as I'm saying it is
Right.
type of situation. So yeah, those are the skills that I'm whether it's pastoral care and counseling, or
Mhm.
church discipline, that's the tightrope we walk. So
Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yep. Completely agree. So, give us just kind of the quick rundown of how you came to Christ, what that process looked like for you. Don't know if you grew up in a Christian home or if it's something kind of like you had a Saul on the road to Damascus kind of thing. Just give us just the rundown of how Christ found you, Pat.
so way back in the early 80s,
Mm.
my family moved from Illinois to Vancouver, Washington. Growing up marginally Catholic. Um,
Oh, really?
yeah, so yeah,
Oh.
and by margin, like, we were at church on Christmas and Easter, and that was about it.
Okay, so
So
you were a bad Catholic, right?
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Um, and I think the reason we stopped going is because I fell asleep on one of those occasions and started to snore, and parents were
Oh
embarrassed,
no.
and so yeah.
Oh man.
At least that's the way I recall the story. But anyway, we moved to Vancouver. All the guys in my age, they all went to church, and so the church it was a big Calvary chapel out there,
Mm.
and had a thriving youth ministry. And so they would invite me, but with my background being Catholic church, I would always turn them down. And so it didn't take too long that first summer for me to want to go along with them, just to hang out with them, just for some community and relationship stuff. Just hearing the gospel preached, one day the light bulb finally went on. I'm like, okay, I need Jesus. And so,
Mhm.
in October of '87, sat down with my school team captain, and we had that conversation, and we prayed together. And it
Yeah.
wasn't, it was maybe 6 months after that I started with a couple high school friends, teaching a Sunday school class,
Oh, wow.
the second grade Sunday school class.
Well, you
Um,
jumped right in.
yeah, well, it was one of
Oh,
those
boy.
things for me. It was one of those things, like, you know, I felt this sense of obligation towards the next generation. Like,
Mhm.
I I wanted to give them what I didn't have,
Sure.
and so it was at the end of that summer that my family moved back to Illinois. I just assumed my faith was going to fall apart. This is the only church I've ever known. Nothing
Right.
else could possibly be as cool, or as life changing. Um, and, obviously, that was just the immaturity of youth thinking those thoughts. And,
Sure.
moved back here. Um, Finished out high school, started at a liberal arts Christian college here in Illinois. And so we had lived here for 4 years. I finished high school, started college, and then, hey, guess what? Mom and dad are moving back to Portland.
Oh, wow.
The hitch there was I had met this girl. So
Okay.
we didn't, we made the decision, even as young and immature as we were, like, we don't want to break up. And this move is going to prove this relationship one way or the other. And so
Right.
we didn't. And, lo and behold, 2.5 years later, we got married, and she
Wow.
moved
Look at
out
that.
there after she graduated. So the Lord opened the door for us to come back to Illinois. And we always knew, because family's here, like at
Mm,
some point we'd be back here. God
sure.
opened that door. I got the opportunity to be involved in a church plant with Joe Thorne, who I had
Hmm.
known right after he was converted. I'd met him,
Right.
and so it's been an honor these last almost 20 years now to walk beside him, and through the church plant and into Redeemer, and
Right.
and
Right.
that's kind of where we're at. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I appreciate that perfect segue. Very professional. Because the next question I wanted to ask you is, obviously you are the pastor, one of the pastors there at Redeemer Fellowship. I had the blessing of being able to visit you guys. I was out for some conference that Joe Thorne was putting on. I don't, I forget the name, but
we all try to
uh,
forget the name.
yeah, yeah, that's right. Oh man. Um, what is one aspect of your church, Redeemer, there, that if you were to try to sum it all into one, what is one aspect of your church that you really treasure and really value?
Easy question to answer. Redeemer
Right on.
Fellowship is it is the healthiest church I've ever been a part of.
Mm,
And it's not because Joe's there. It's not because I'm there. It's because of what God is doing in and amongst the people there. We have awesome people. We experience awesome community, awesome worship,
hmm.
and and yeah, it's just it makes the job easier.
Right.
I know that I can go to any one of my fellow elders, or anyone in my community group, or any one of the community group leaders that I oversee,
Hmm.
um, and spill my guts to them about what I'm going through,
Right.
without fear that it's going to be used against me, and they're
Right.
going to love me, and they're going to walk me through whatever I'm dealing with, you know
Yeah. Right.
and and so it's the health of the church that makes Redeemer something that I've never experienced, not never experienced, but haven't experienced to this degree.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And that's such a blessing to be able to have that accountability and that group of people around you that are speaking into your life, you're speaking into theirs. That creates such a healthy and robust church culture. How do you, as part of the leadership team, how does the church there facilitate and encourage its members to get plugged in to the community and start giving of their time, their presence, and talents? How do you guys go about doing that?
So it starts, as people are coming in who are new to Redeemer. It starts very simply with our newcomers lunch. We do it every other month. I don't know how often we do it. We do it a lot, though.
Hmm.
Um, at least every quarter, if not more often than that. One of the last things we say there is, if you're still interested, if you still want to know more about Redeemer, we have our membership orientation class, which typically is like a week or two later. Um,
Mm,
Thankfully, we have Pastor Brian Malcolm, who put our website together, and
yeah.
who, if you click on, I want to serve in this area, that
Hmm.
automatically generates an email to that ministry leader so that they can get in
Oh wow!
contact. So yeah,
Look at
um,
you guys in the
yeah,
21st century.
something like that. Something like that.
That's
Finally,
well, and that's like it's even doubly amazing knowing you guys are like part of the Southern Baptist Convention, because all the churches that I know in the Southern Baptist Convention are still, they probably don't even have websites yet.
Right,
So you guys
right.
are doing fantastic.
Or they do, and it's the original
It's
website that
like,
they had
yes,
from
there's like,
the late '80s or whatever.
it like you click on it, it starts playing music, and there's like those flash cartoons that like come across the screen, right?
Yeah, yeah. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants
Yeah,
that. So.
no. Oh man,
But
that's funny.
it's during that membership process that we continue to push the two big buttons of what community group are you planning on at least checking
Hmm.
out.
Right,
Because
right,
it's in community group and it's in serving, on a Sunday morning. That's where we're exercising our spiritual gifts. That's where we're doing a lot of growing, and not that
right.
growth doesn't happen in corporate worship, but it's in these other areas throughout the week that we see them happening much more often and much more commonly. So those are the two buttons we push. What community group are you going to be in? Where you're going to serve? Because
Right.
it's going to be a benefit to the church, but it's also going to be a benefit to that person's spiritual growth.
Right. Yep. Yep. So my question to you, especially as the pastor there that's trying to encourage people in this mentality, how would you say that your faith in Christ, the fact that you have been changed by the gospel, how does that affect and infect how you view service in church and then just service in your community, working a 9 to 5? How does that filter through and make you view that service?
Whether it's and before I was on staff full time at Redeemer, I had a warehouse job, right? I punched the
Mhm,
clock. I went in at 6 and was done at 3:30 or whatever.
mhm,
And I remember those days, and it's carried over even into the job that I do at Redeemer as a pastor. Like, everything I do is for God's glory,
mhm,
and to have that mentality. If I'm walking in, I got a text this morning reminding me, or asking me if I would fill in one of our Sunday school classes. You know,
mhm.
somebody who was scheduled has come down with some sort of plague. I don't know. I don't want to
Mhm.
know.
Sure.
But they're sick, and so they can't. So they know they're not going to be there. So yeah, I'll step in. But
Mhm.
that switches that gear in my mind now. Okay, I'm walking into this room. I'm not
Yeah,
the lead teacher.
right.
I'm there to help facilitate what is going to be taught. Okay, how do I do that? So yeah, it's just having that mindset that it doesn't matter what job you do. It's not about my paycheck. It's about doing it to God's glory.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah, 100% agree. Yeah, and that will give us, when we have that mentality, that will change the motives for service, right? Because anybody who's been in any type of ministry for any amount of time knows that there are good and bad motivations for wanting to get plugged into church or wanting to serve,
Hmm.
right? And it's very hard to distinguish, especially in ourselves, what's my motivation here? What do you think are good and bad motivations for getting plugged in and serving in the body?
I think on the good side, it's a faithful response to what God is doing
Mhm,
in your heart, in your life. I think it's Robbie Gallaty that says, the gospel came to you on its way to somebody else.
mhm,
So yeah, even as a new believer, your passion and excitement, like, the older saints need to see that and need to
right,
experience that again and remember what it was like to be a new believer, even in all the awkwardness and immaturity, spiritual immaturity that is,
yep,
that's there. Like, the excitement and the passion is there.
right,
You know, on the opposite, so yeah, faithful, just being faithful to serve and be willing to serve and being humble in that service
mhm,
is on the one side of the spectrum. On the other side of the spectrum, yeah, the easiest thing for any of us to fall into is pride. you
yeah,
know I want to be
yeah,
seen. Um, I want, I want everybody to give me praise about how awesome I am. It's
Right.
those types of things that we work pretty hard at, identifying as early as we can, and then discipling people through those.
The obvious question then, just to wrap that up with a bow, is how do we make sure that we, as church members, whether you're in leadership or not, how do we keep those motivations pure? What is it that we should be doing and striving for that keeps those motivations for why I am serving in church, keeps those motivations where they should be?
So I'm going to answer this,
Mhm.
but I almost feel like either this is a Jesus juke, or B, it's a Sunday school answer. But
Yeah,
it's true.
it might be.
It You need to be in the Word yourself. You need to be in the Word regularly. You need to be praying
Mhm.
regularly. You need to be using um, those things that God has given us, being corporate worship, being community, all these graces that God has given us, the means of grace that God's have given us to
Yeah,
be growing yourself,
right.
you know, because that's where the Holy Spirit's going to check your heart.
So Pat, I don't know about you, but for me, some of the greatest amount of joy that I have and that I have found is uh, seeing the saints serve each other in church. There's not much that gives me more joy than being a part of a community of saints that loves each other, that inputs into each other, and that serves each other in the gospel. Right? Those are the things that really excite me and give me a lot of passion to keep going, and to keep serving well, hopefully. And Pat, when you think about Christians either that are around you right now, or that you've read or listened to or watched, whatever, whatever the case, when you think about Christians that inspire you in that facet to be more like Christ, to follow Christ harder and faster and more fervently than you do now, who are those Christians for you, and what are the traits that you see them possess that spur you on?
So the first closest to home example that I have is one of the other elders at Redeemer, Pastor Jeff Willie.
Hmm.
Jeff is, we affectionately call him the eldest elder. He's the
Okay.
oldest one among us, um,
Okay.
and he has almost 10 years on me. So we look to him um, for
Wisdom.
for wisdom, yeah. And Jeff is so tenderhearted and so merciful. Like, I want to be that way when I grow up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he inspires me. Jeff is on our children's ministry schedule in the nursery, probably 3 out of the 4 Sundays of the month.
Mhm.
He loves to take a crying baby and rock that baby until that baby stops crying. Like, he's like the baby whisperer, really.
Oh
And we
wow.
have two men who can take a crying baby and make it stop crying, and
Yeah.
not by torturing it, but just by
Yeah.
loving on it. Um,
Oh,
um, you know,
sure. Yeah, I hear you.
yeah, they're the baby whisperers. Like, I don't get how they do it, but I
It
I
just
I
happens. It
just
just
I
happens.
just watch and I marvel at it. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. It's called chocolate and essential oils.
yeah, or whiskey, whatever,
or,
whatever
or
works.
a dab of whiskey on the lips, and
Yeah,
they forget about it
yeah,
in the morning. Yeah.
yep, they're good. They're
They're
good.
fine.
So, yeah,
Oh, goodness.
yeah, he's probably the closest. I've had a number of pastors
Mhm.
and ministry leaders and Christian brothers and sisters who have had a profound impact on me. To
Yeah.
name them all we'd be here for the next 20 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Um,
Sure.
but from the moment I became a Christian to now, you know, I can think back, that list is pretty long.
Well, Pat, we're coming to a close, but I know for a fact, being in ministry, that you have those stories, right? You have those memories. You have the things that pop into your head that you can't talk about on a podcast, but the podcast host is going to ask you anyway. It's those unforgettable moments that happens in church experiences. So I'm going to ask you, Pat, what is one of the either funniest or most unforgettable church experiences you have ever had?
Which one to pick, dude?
Right. Yeah, that's an answer I hear a lot.
The first story that comes to mind.
Yeah.
I was in a vehicle with Joe Thorne and two guys who one is our church planter and one who was a member of Redeemer who is now at another local church pastoring there. I was sitting in the back seat behind the driver. Joe was in the front passenger seat of this vehicle. And we had been in the car for about 2 hours.
Okay. All right. So people are already getting antsy.
We were driving from Chicago to Louisville. So, and it's just long, like all you see is cornfields and windmills and
yeah,
there's long stretches of road where there isn't an exit. So, you're kind of watching your gas and making sure you have enough to get to the next site of civilization. So we'd been in the car for about 2 hours and I was looking at my phone. I'm like, Joe can only hold it for about 2 hours. He's been drinking either coffee or his Diet Coke. So he's about due.
Yeah.
And so I look up from my phone and look over at him in the passenger seat.
Oh no.
And I see the face that he makes. Like he's had to go for a while and just hadn't said anything. Like, dude, we're in the middle of nowhere.
He's trying to be a man.
But his little tiny tank just isn't allowing it. And so I'm having this internal debate, like, do I just bite the bullet and let the driver know, like, I have to go to the bathroom just to save him some of the embarrassment?
Just save him, right?
Just to save his fragile little ego.
He's like 4'8", so that bladder can't be much.
It can't be that big, dude. So like I feel for the guy. I do. Like, he starts shifting around in his chair a lot, and so finally, the driver's name was Tim. I'm like, Tim, we need to pull over. Joe needs to use the bathroom. The car wasn't even in park yet, and Joe was out of that vehicle. And we were laughing so hard. It was so funny. Like, all you have to do is say something, dude. You know we're gonna bust on you for it anyway. You might as well just get out of the way and lose some of the agony. But of course, if he would have said something when he first had to go, he wouldn't have had to wait as long to the next place where there was a bathroom available.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Well, he's just trying to play it off.
Yeah,
he's like, no,
it's not that big of a deal.
I'm fine.
Yeah,
I can go for hours.
Yeah, you can go for 2 hours. That's your limit, dude. We know. We know.
We know how this works.
Yeah.
We've been down this road before.
Yeah.
But Pat, we are just about to the end, but not yet. It is time for the Monday hot takes. And this is where I ask you a whole bunch of random questions and you give me the first thing that pops into your head. You ready for these?
This could get dangerous,
Oh, that's the idea.
Okay.
That's the idea. All right, let's go. All right, we're going to start off with something easy.
Doubtful.
No, really. What is something about current Christian culture that's annoying to you?
How everybody is quick to listen and slow to speak, especially online.
Okay.
Especially when you don't have any context, you're just spewing your opinion.
Yeah.
You're not part of this issue, but you're gonna input your judgment anyway.
Sure, because the world needs to know what I think.
Right.
They're just waiting for that, and it's gonna fix everything, right? Okay, Pat. If you could disinvent one thing, what would it be?
The Nintendo Wii U. What a useless video game system that was. And I had to pay for it because my kids wanted
it. There you go.
The Switch is so much better.
Let's see. Okay, hard question here. And I haven't gotten many takers on this one, but I have a feeling you might be the guy. You might be the guy. Because I refuse to just throw the question out because I love it so much.
Now I'm so worried.
Yeah. All right. If you could send 3 people, you know what? I'm going to make it easier. We're going to go 2 people. you could send 2 people in a rocket to space to colonize Mars with Elon Musk with the express knowledge that these 2 people are not coming back to Earth. Which 2 people are they?
Wow. That's such a loaded question.
It is so loaded. I love it so much. Think about some keyboard warriors, quick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I want to answer the question, but no one's jumping to my mind right away.
No, that's fair. It just proves that most of my guests are way more sanctified than me.
Possibly.
I have
Doubtful, but possible. So I'm going to ask a question back to you then about that question.
Oh, okay.
How long is your list?
How long is my list?
Yeah.
Growing by the day.
Yeah, see, there's the problem right there.
And there's the problem. Maybe I need counseling. Maybe I should take this question off the list. Okay, all right. If you could close one fast food chain, which one would it be?
Burger King.
Close it. Yes. Oh man. Okay, that seems to be the winner. I've had quite a few people say that. Burger King must really just be awful.
Yeah. Don't go.
Yeah. Must be so bad. Okay. What's the craziest or most out of character thing you've ever done?
Jimmy Fowler comes running into my office one day and convinces me to follow him into Joe's office where Joe is doing a phone interview for somebody or something, and to do so without a shirt on and dancing in front of Joe. And the only reason Jimmy didn't do it because he videoed the whole thing.
Oh, I need this video.
No, you really don't, because I'm your typical Midwestern white boy who has no rhythm whatsoever. So dancing was not a pretty sight.
I love it. That's there. I'm writing this down. That's another thing to ask Joe about.
No.
Oh my goodness. Let's see.
I think he was in counseling about that whole situation anyways.
Yeah,
so
he had.
You don't want to bring it up
anymore.
Probably.
He had to outsource it for pastoral abuse.
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh goodness. All right, Pat. Least favorite food?
Fish.
Okay. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Oh, you stink, dude.
I know.
We have this conversation all the time over on the Geekly Planet, and I can never choose.
Yeah. That's why it's in here. You gotta give me, dude. This is good. We're gonna make history right here. We're gonna make both Everyday a Monday and Geekly Planet history, and you are gonna give me the one superpower if you had to choose.
Telepathy.
Oh, okay. Weirdo.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, great. Yeah.
Not only do I want to know what you're thinking, I want to influence what you're thinking.
You're right.
Basically, right. And be able to shut you down. Just
in counseling sessions, I suppose that would make sense.
Yeah.
It's like, I know what you're about to say. You didn't know it, but I knew what you were going to say before you knew what you were going to say.
Yeah, basically.
All right, I'm going to hit you with another hard one here. I know. And favorite movie.
Oh goodness. I'm still such a comic book fan since the age of 7. The original Avengers movie is still my favorite movie.
So the original, meaning the one like way back in the
2012.
The 1970s?
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago, dude. It wasn't that long ago. Don't go.
No, I was thinking the 1970s one.
Yeah, not that one. They came out
with Lou Ferrigno and whoever that man baby was. They got Thor. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Favorite superhero.
Toss up between Wolverine and Thor.
What did you think of Fat Thor?
At first, I found it amusing, but then it got annoying.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
but
so
by the end, when
it got worse for you.
When he used the lightning to braid his beard, I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, it's true. It was. I've never been so excited for like manicuring. My life, I was like, his beard's braided. He bearded his beard. He bearded his beard. I love it. Well, Pat, we have come to the end of the podcast. I'm going to give you a quick 1 minute, do a quick promo for the Geekly Planet. I want to send people over there because it's a fun podcast. Go for it.
So the Geekly Planet on iTunes, you can look us up there. Basically, we talk about pretty much everything that we geek out about. It's a lot of pop culture, a lot of comic, a lot of movie, a lot of sci-fi stuff. So we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter. Just look us up. We're there. Very soon, Josh is going to be with us to do another edition of Would You Rather.
Would I rather?
The superhero edition.
That's right. That's right. I better go brush up on my my Marvel superheroes because DC has all the best ones.
Wow,
so
that's a bold statement.
We'll save it.
Yeah.
Save it.
Because we could go for
a little
like a half hour right now, dude.
Oh yeah, we're already I'm already having to cut out probably half of our conversation just because it's an hour. It's an hour and 4 minutes at this point.
Yes.
And I have to get it to about 35 minutes, and I don't know what's this might just be the entire podcast is just hot takes. It's like we're not talking about church. We're talking about
Yeah, we can drop that. That would be perfect.
Yeah. Pat, thank you so much for being on with me today, man. I really appreciate it.
Dude, it was my pleasure. It's always good to talk to you, my friend.
Right on. So, hey, everyone, you can head on over to iTunes and leave a raving review and a 5-star rating.
It better be 5-star, dude.
It better be 5-star and it better be raving. Whether it's raving in that you're in a rave while you're doing it, that works as well. It really doesn't matter. That would be interesting.
Yeah. I would want video proof of that if I were you.
Yes, I want a video clip of you writing us a review that is raving while raving.
Yeah.
And it better be 5-star. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Google Music, YouTube, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you find your podcast. We are there. Head on over to Facebook.com/EverydayMondayPodcast, Instagram @EverydayAMondayPod. I want to thank you all for joining us in the trenches today, and we will catch you on the next step of Every Day a Monday.